Maybe it's a leadership crisis. After all, everything rises and falls on leadership. If seminaries would just train pastors to be better leaders, to staff to their weaknesses, to get more in touch with culture, and to understand and use their Enneagram number, our churches would grow again, right? Sure, they might, but with what type of growth? All of these issues are important and deserve discussion, of course, but I contend that what we really need isn't anything new. Jesus said his gospel, the events of God the Son coming to earth, living the life we were supposed to live, dying the death we were condemned to die, and rising from the dead to defeat sin and death and offer humanity away to God through his sacrifice, contained such power that not even the gates of hell would be able to resist its advance. Think about this. The gospel is the one thing in the New Testament other than Jesus himself that is referred to directly as the power of God. Not contains the power of God, not channels the power of God. The gospel is itself the raw, unstoppable, death-defeating power of God. The Apostle Paul explains in his letter to the Romans, in Romans chapter 1, verse 16, that the gospel is the power of God unto salvation for all who would believe. When dynamite was invented in the 18th century, its name was derived from the Greek word Paul uses in Romans chapter 1 for power, dunamis. Now, Paul, of course, didn't know anything about dynamite, but I think it's still a good image to use when thinking of the gospel. The gospel is God's power to create, to redeem, to heal, to bring back from the dead. It doesn't offer insights on a new or superior technique. It is raw, explosive power. My dad told me that when he was a boy, one of the worst whoopings he got was when he broke into his dad's company's shed and borrowed some dynamite. He wanted to go fishing. I know that raises a lot of questions. Suffice it to say, we're fortunate to still have Dad around. As a boy, my dad may not have known about risk, but he knew something about power. Fishing sure is a lot easier when you do it with dynamite, Dad said. Toss the dynamite in the pond, wait for the boom, and then watch as lifeless fish float to the surface. That's Western North Carolina fishing right there. He read over this chapter and asked me to make sure you knew he wasn't condoning this type of thing anymore. A stick of dynamite doesn't give you instructions on new ways to fish or tell you the best places to cast your line. It is the power that does all the work. In a similar way, the gospel doesn't give you instructions on how to change. It is itself the power to change. This is the power the church needs. And the most important question before us is this: how can we get the gospel back into the right place in the church? The gospel is more important than our programs. The gospel is more important than our preferences. The gospel is more important than our priorities. The gospel is more important than our politics. The gospel is more important than blank. It doesn't matter how you fill the blank. The gospel is always and will always be most important. My guess is if you picked this book, you believe the gospel. You believe that God is holy and glorious and worthy, and that you are sinful. You believe in what Jesus has done for you. But like many believers, when it comes to the pursuit of abundant life, you believe in other things as well. The gospel is one alternative among many. Here's the reality. If the gospel is not above all, it loses its power to change us, our families, our neighborhoods, our places of work, and our world. In fact, if the gospel is not above all else, it's not even the gospel anymore. We need the power of the gospel, the raw power of God, to bring transformation to every area of our lives, and then to our community.